Story 1. My husband and I own a hot dog cart. This has been his dream for as long as I've known him, and we saved for years to afford the cart he always wanted. Due to county and state laws, we are not legally allowed to set up on the street, so our business operates by invitation only, such as at city events and local businesses. We were set up at a city, trunk, or treat event. It's a huge free event with more than 2,000 people attending, held at a minor league baseball stadium. It was our last event of the year, and we were so excited. We love events with children. They love hot dogs, and most adults enjoy seeing an old-fashioned hot dog vendor, especially a family business. We were having a great night. Customers were loving the hot dogs, and the costumes were so much fun to see. We were with a customer when two random boys, maybe around 12 years old, interrupted the transaction and asked for a free hot dog. We didn't know the kids. For reference, there were other food vendors at the event. However, we are the smallest business, operating with only a cart. The other vendors had food trailers and food trucks. Every business was doing their best, and we were all respectful and supportive of one another. I told the boys, "No, we don't have any free hot dogs." They asked again, pressing us harder this time. I repeated that we didn't have any free food. They kept asking and begging, refusing to stop. My husband finally asked them, "Have you asked the burger vendor for a free burger?" The kids said yes, but admitted that the vendor told them no. We asked if they had asked vendors B, C, D, and E for free food. They said yes, but all of the vendors told them no as well. These boys badgered us for over 5 minutes, begging for free hot dogs. Finally, my husband explained that we were the smallest business there and couldn't afford to give away food for free. Eventually, the boys left, but about 20 minutes later, they came back and asked again for free hot dogs. My husband finally said, "If you come back 10 minutes before closing at 7:50 p.m., and we have unsold hot dogs, then you can each have one. It's better to give away unused inventory than throw it away." The boys seemed satisfied with that answer and left. However, they returned at 7:30 p.m. and said they were leaving the event, demanding their free hot dogs right then. We told them no and reminded them of what we had said earlier. They continued to beg, but we stood firm. Eventually, they gave up and left for good. I was completely astonished by the boldness of these boys. Who thinks they're entitled to free food just because they ask for it? We never saw their parents or guardians, but I would have had a candid conversation with them if I had. Although, based on the boys' behavior, I'm not sure the adults would have cared. This isn't the first time kids have asked us for free hot dogs, but it's the first time they refused to take no for an answer. It truly amazes me. Story 2. Backstory. This happened about 3 years ago. I was still in college for digital marketing, like advertising and graphic design. Since I had no time to work even a part-time job, I would do some freelance graphic design in the little time I had. Mainly in the later hours of the night. I would still answer emails during the day though. It was good money, a couple hundred here and there, but it wasn't enough. The company that ran the cafeteria in my school went through bankruptcy, and I was taken off our 21 meals a week plan. I had to resort to putting very small ads in the newspaper and started looking for more jobs online rather than posting a listing on Craigslist as I previously had. I got a few good jobs. Everything seemed great at this point. Then the fatal night happened. I received an email at about 10:45 at night. It was midweek, so it was a bit odd for someone to be emailing me this late, especially since I had school the next day and they probably had work. Right off the bat, I had a sketchy feeling about this, as the subject was, "I need an ad made," and the message was, "Okay." As per usual, I respond right away asking for more details. He said he had run a custom shower company and he wanted me to Photoshop a picture, add text, and then format it for billboard printing. He sends me the image, and it's a custom shower with 2 shower heads that are on. He wants me to remove one of the heads. I tell him that it will be difficult due to the fact the streams are crossing. He replies with, "So, just freaking do it." I finish the ad for him, and I'm about to watermark it so I can send him a final copy, then request payment. Then I realize that it's already freaking watermarked, faintly in the corner by another shower company, and it doesn't match his. This douchebag stole a picture from another local company. I tell him that I won't do the ad because he's using a copyrighted picture, and that I can replace it and keep the text. He rages and claims that he took the photo with his phone earlier that week. At this point, I have better things to be doing, so I block his emails, as they were starting to be harassment. Fast forward 2 weeks. I get a call from an unknown number saying that I screwed up and that he just paid another designer big bucks for the same job. These calls continue over the next week, and I just start ignoring them. Here's where something magical happens. He starts texting me, but it's with his actual freaking number. I think he tried to *67 me. It means he numbers you dial on a phone to make your call anonymous on caller ID, but it doesn't work through texting. This will come back to bite him in the butt when we get to the revenge part. Here's where the revenge comes in. After the semester ends, I decide to drive around 2 hours to visit my parents for the week I have between the semesters. While I'm driving on the freeway, I see something familiar. It's the photo the guy wanted me to make into an ad for him on a billboard. Then I realize that the ad on the billboard is for his freaking company. Although he clearly didn't hire another designer, it looks as if he made it in Microsoft Paint. I get off at the next exit so I can get a few pictures and write down the location. When I get back from my parents' house, I immediately start up my computer and try to get into contact with the company who owns the photo. I send them the pictures and location along with his emails. They thank me and I happily go to bed. Fast forward a month. I got a call on a Saturday morning saying that the company who owns the photo needed me to come into their offices to discuss a few things. Turns out that they ended up filing a lawsuit over the copyright issue, as he still claimed it to be his photo. The judge told me while I was in court, as a witness, that I would be able to file for harassment and get a restraining order. Normally I wouldn't care, but the harassment would go on his record. Because of all the legal fees, his company went under. I later found out that he tried to start up another company of similar sorts, but he would have to tell his employees of his harassment charge. That company went under as well because he couldn't find anyone to work for him. Get screwed. Story 3. The 2 months I spent in 6th grade, Year 7 for you lovely UK readers, was anything but pleasant. Scary new school, new kids I didn't know because it was a city school, new teachers, and more importantly a brand new principal who was serving his first year in that position. The school was set up with floors, the 6th graders on the top floor, 7th on the middle, 8th on the main floor along with a cafeteria, gymnasium, band and choir rooms. Kids were expected to be able to travel to and from classrooms and floors as needed on their own for the first time. Now gym was never a favorite class. I had asthma and strenuous activity didn't help that condition any. I sat out with permission from certain things, and the gym teacher aka coach, Mr. Max, was a wonderful man who understood completely and even waved off a doctor's note for it. After a week or so we played free-for-all dodgeball for the first time. Unlike normal dodgeball, there was no line you couldn't cross, so it was absolute anarchy of children running and screaming and throwing rubber balls at each other. That was when I formally met my new and shiny bully, Ron, who was at least 3 times my size and twice my height. He was a big kid. He looked me over, grinned, and full-on punched me square in the side of the head, instead of hitting me with the ball. Then it escalated. He was also a 6th grader, and we shared some classes, gym, and band. In band, I'd get smacked in the back of the head with a trombone slide, punched or shoved in the gym or a hallway, and then finally one fateful day, he picked me up off the floor and tossed me down the stairs from the 3rd floor. I only sprained a wrist and chipped a tooth thankfully, but my mother went beyond ballistic when I finally fessed up to the bullying and a new friend confirmed it. She brought me into school the next day and requested a meeting with the principal. The meeting went just as bad, and since a teacher hadn't seen the exchange, and I hadn't seen myself getting picked up from behind, he couldn't do anything about it, and it was likely a case of, he just has a crush on you. Mom promptly went home, registered me for homeschooling through a private school, and told me I had a month until I was going to be leaving permanently. And to give that little jerk hell, baby. So I did just that. My moldy science experiment bag was opened, wiggled into his locker at the gym, and squeezed to empty it out onto his clothes. An anthill collected and poured into his backpack during class. I batted my eyelashes and begged him to let me do his history report for him if he'd stop hitting me. I purposely made it absolute garbage to get him a bad grade. Then came the coup de grace. I went to Coach Max and asked if we could play free for all dodgeball one last time since I was leaving, and loved it so much. He agreed, which meant less work for him after all, and so the game commenced. I knew Ron would hunt me down to hit me somehow again. Only this time the tables had turned. I dove for the first ball I found, scanned the carnage for him, ran up to him with a vindictive grin, pulled my leg back and as hard as my tiny body could and slammed my foot right into his crotch. He thumped to the ground with a horrific scream of agony. Kids nearby stopped playing and ran for Coach Max. But that was not the end. I ripped my leg back and kicked him again in the face. Coach saw the last kick, and naturally called me off, helped the degenerate up, and off to the nurse's office. Once there, he threw tears and yelling and explained what I had done. The nurse grabbed the principal who grabbed me, sat me down and demanded to know why I had assaulted a student. "Sir, you said last month that him throwing me downstairs was a crush on me, right?" I was returning the favor. He didn't like that answer apparently, and called my mother to come and get me that I was suspended. My mother did, and since I only had 3 days left before the transfer, I never got to go back, and she never punished me for my 2-ish weeks of being a bully. Story 4. I spent most of my free time playing video games when I was younger. I saved up birthday money and did chores to buy new titles. My parents weren't exactly wealthy, but they worked hard to give me what they could. They taught me the value of money and patience. When the PlayStation 5 was finally released, I'd been saving for months, doing odd jobs around the neighborhood, mowing lawns, walking dogs, whatever I could to earn enough money to buy it myself. My parents saw how dedicated I was and decided to help me out with the rest of the cost as an early birthday present. I was so excited I could barely sleep the night before we planned to go to the electronics store. The release had been chaotic, with stock selling out everywhere within minutes. We called ahead and were told there might be a few units left, but it was first come, first served. We got to the store early that Saturday morning. The parking lot was already packed with other people who had the same idea. My dad parked the car and we rushed inside. My heart was pounding when we made our way to the electronics section. I could see the display from across the store, and there was only one box left on the shelf. I ran over, with my parents following behind me. Just when I reached out to grab it, another hand shot out from the side. It was a woman, probably in her late 30s, with perfectly styled hair and expensive clothes. She looked at me with an annoyed expression. The woman told me that she was there first, her voice sharp and demanding. I quickly responded that we were there first and that I had gotten to it before her. My mom stepped forward and gently took the box from my hands, telling the woman that we would be taking this one. We started walking toward the checkout line, relieved that we'd managed to get the last one. But the woman wasn't done. She followed us, her voice getting louder with each step. She called out to us to hold on, insisting that we couldn't just take it. She said that her son had been waiting for months for this console. My dad turned around, trying to remain polite, when he explained that our son had also been waiting and saving up for months, and that we had reached it first. The woman raised her voice, saying it wasn't fair and mentioning that her husband was a lawyer. She demanded that we give her the PlayStation immediately. My mom told her that we weren't giving it to her, that we had gotten it first, and that the discussion was over. The woman's face turned red. She started raising her voice even more, attracting attention from other shoppers and store employees. She went on about how ridiculous the situation was, accusing my parents of teaching me to be selfish and questioning what kind of parents they were. I held on to my mom's hand tighter. I didn't understand why this woman was so angry. All I wanted was to go home and set up my new console. We kept walking toward the front of the store, but she cut us off right before we reached the register. She demanded again that we give her the PlayStation right now, threatening to call the police if we didn't. My dad told her to go ahead, saying we hadn't done anything wrong. The woman accused us of stealing it from her, insisting she had been reaching for it first. My mom told her that wasn't what happened and that she knew it. We tried to step around her, but she moved to block us again. Then she did something I didn't expect. She lunged forward and tried to grab the box right out of my hands. I pulled back and pushed her away. I wasn't trying to hurt her, just to keep her from taking what was mine. She immediately started screaming that I had assaulted her, that I had attacked her, and that everyone in the store had witnessed it. She started making this huge scene, holding her arm like I'd hurt her. People were staring now, and I felt embarrassed and scared. I didn't do anything wrong, but she was making it seem like I had. My dad said that enough was enough, and that we were going to pay for the console and leave. The woman shouted that we weren't going anywhere. She walked outside, her phone already at her ear. Through the store windows, I could see her pacing back and forth, gesturing wildly when she talked. A store manager came over to ask if everything was okay, and my parents explained what happened. The manager nodded and let us complete our purchase while we waited. About 5 minutes later, 2 police officers walked into the store. My stomach dropped. The woman came in right behind them, pointing at us. She told the officers that we were the ones who had stolen her PlayStation and that our son had assaulted her. One of the officers, a tall man with gray hair, looked at us and said they needed to hear our side of the story. My dad explained everything that happened while my mom held the receipt showing we'd purchased the PlayStation legally. I stood there quietly, trying not to cry. The officer listened, then looked at the woman and pointed out that we had a receipt proving we'd purchased the item. The woman insisted that we had taken it from her and that I had pushed her. The other officer asked if anyone else had witnessed what happened. The store manager stepped forward and offered to show them the security camera footage from throughout the store. The first officer agreed that would be helpful. The manager led one of the officers to the back office while the other stayed with us and the woman. She kept insisting we were lying, that we were thieves, that we'd attacked her. My parents stayed calm, but I could tell they were frustrated. A few minutes later, both officers returned. Their expressions had changed. They walked straight to the woman. The first officer told her that they had reviewed the footage and that it clearly showed her following our family, harassing us, and attempting to take our property by force. He explained that I had only pushed her away to protect what I was holding and that it wasn't assault. The woman protested, insisting that we were lying. The officer said that the cameras didn't lie and that she needed to come with them. She continued to protest, asking if they knew who her husband was. The officer told her to turn around. I watched when they put handcuffs on her. She continued yelling and protesting when they escorted her out of the store. Other shoppers had stopped to watch, some of them recording on their phones. After they left, the manager apologized for the incident and let us leave through a side exit to avoid any more drama. On the drive home, my parents asked if I was okay. I nodded, still processing everything that had just happened. My dad said we were going to press charges because what she did wasn't right. My mom agreed, pointing out that the woman had tried to steal from me and then lied to the police about it. And they did. We filed a police report and pressed charges for attempted theft and filing a false police report. Weeks later, we found out she'd been fined and given community service. That woman came into the store expecting to get a PlayStation for her son one way or another. Instead, she ended up at the police station in handcuffs. I finally got to play my games in peace. Story 5. Just to clarify, this story took place before the pandemic. so no masks, social distancing, or lockdown rules applied. In this story, the following abbreviations will refer to the following people: my mother, my father, me, my sister, entitled mother, and the entitled mother's kid. Before this incident, my mom was friends with the entitled mother, and she, along with her entitled kid, would come to our house once every few weeks. They started off pretty well, but slowly descended into a full-on Karen and entitled kid duet. On this occasion, I had a TV, switch, monitor, PC on my desk in my room. I felt quite uncomfortable with the entitled mother and entitled kid coming around, because the entitled kid is known in our neighborhood for being destructive and insanely annoying. My PC is pretty good, and I thought that they would pick a fight over it, but they picked a fight about the TV. Cue to the day the entitled mother and entitled kid come over. The visit starts with the entitled mother demanding a cup of tea being made for her, and the entitled kid dashing straight into my room. She was up there for about 3 minutes on her own, because my whole family was greeting the entitled mother and attempting to try and treat her like a princess. The entitled mother and I came into my room, and the following conversation ensued. Entitled mother, can we take your TV? Me, no, I paid for it. It is my possession. You can't just ask to take it for free. Entitled kid, Mummy, I want the TV now. Please, we only have 2 TVs at home, you have 3. She was referring to my TV, my monitor, and our downstairs TV in the living room. We only have 2. Also, I paid for this with my own money, from my own job. I feel that you are being quite entitled right now, so I kindly request you to stop. Stop being so snobby and posh. My mom, what is going on here? Your kid beat up my lovely son. I did not do anything like that. The entitled mother asked for my TV for free, and I kindly declined her offer. She got mad and now is accusing me of beating up her kid. Entitled kid, in a whiny voice, you beat me up, you ducking liar. I was surprised. This child was only 8, and they swore. I suppose that they got it from their mother. My sister, I was in the corridor the whole time, and I agree with my brother. That entitled kid is the liar. My father, who had been in the room listening in for a few minutes, entitled mother and entitled kid, you demanded something quite expensive for free, and then, when confronted about it, you accused my kid of beating up your son. I saw this whole situation. It simply did not happen. Please get out of our property. But, no excuses. I saw that it did not happen. Get out. They left our house. They blocked us on all social media, so we lost all contact with her and her kid. We also did not see them around anymore, so maybe they moved out. Story 6. This happened last week, and I felt you all on this sub would love to hear about this outrageous couple. Just thinking about it makes me shake with frustration and sheer astonishment at this level of entitlement. Meet the cast fake names. Me. Clem, my flatmate and close friend, male. The intruder, the entitled parent's son. Susan, entitled mother, the poshest Karen I've ever seen. Chad, entitled father, who will let you know that he's a lawyer. Security guard, the campus security officer. Manager, campus housing manager, a Karen's deadliest weapon. This happened last week, at the end of the semester here at the university, which means most students were wrapping up coursework, presentations, and essays while preparing for the long nights of revision over Easter break. Safe to say that most of us, myself included, were extremely stressed and sleep-deprived. It was in this context of mental and physical exhaustion that this story took place. It should be noted that my bedroom door sometimes doesn't lock properly. It needs to be pulled hard to close completely. I had forgotten to do that a couple of times, and the night of the incident was, of course, one of those times. After a full day of reading and essay planning, I went to sleep around 11 p.m. and fell asleep almost immediately. Like I said, I was absolutely exhausted. A few hours later, I heard what sounded like hushed footsteps near my bed. I'm a very light sleeper and get startled by unfamiliar noises due to post-traumatic stress. One of the sounds that triggers me the most is footsteps. Needless to say, my eyes shot open almost instantly. I turned around to see the silhouette of a guy I had never seen before standing next to my bed. I could make out part of his face, nothing particularly frightening about his appearance, except for the fact that I didn't know who he was, and that he was staring at me, in my bedroom, in the middle of the night. I let out the loudest, high-pitched scream I think I've ever made, yelling at him to get out. He seemed startled but didn't react much, which made the situation even scarier. I started crying and hyperventilating. It felt like I was about to have a heart attack or something similar. Before I could do anything else, my flatmate Clem burst into the room, also yelling at the guy to get out while handing me a shirt to cover myself. I sleep with minimal clothing, so Clem assumed the guy was trying to harm me. All the commotion attracted the attention of the security guard who was patrolling the halls. He separated everyone and took the intruder out into the common area, giving me some time to compose myself and get dressed to explain what had happened. Once Clem managed to calm me down, I explained everything to the security guard, who told me that our flat's main door was also unlocked, which was likely how the intruder got in. The intruder was searched by the security guard, but no weapons were found, so he was allowed to go back to his flat. All the noise had woken up the rest of my flatmates and even a few people from neighboring flats. The security guard told everyone to go back to their rooms and make sure their doors were properly locked. Safe to say, I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, neither did Clem. We stayed together, trying to relax and forget about the terrifying incident. But oh, how I wish it had stopped there. 3 or 4 days later, Clem and I were summoned for a meeting with the housing manager. When we got there, the intruder, and who we assumed were his parents, were already waiting. This was still during the health regulations period, so we all had masks on and were socially distanced. I'll try to recall the conversation as accurately as possible. Clem helped me piece it together. Manager: Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking some time out of your studies to meet with us. As you know, there was an unfortunate incident Monday night, when the intruder entered this young woman's room, which caused her a great deal of fear. The intruder, Mrs. Entitled Mother, and Mr. Entitled Father, you've called this meeting to contest the intruder's expulsion from this housing following the incident. Is that correct? The entitled parents nodded confidently. Manager: The intruder, on what grounds are you contesting the expulsion? The intruder: Well, Entitled Dad cutting in. You see, sir, my son is young. He made a mistake and deeply regrets frightening this young lady here and offending her boyfriend. Clem: I'm not her boyfriend. Entitled Dad: I wasn't finished. As I said, my son regrets his mistake, but it was just that, a mistake. Nothing illegal was found on him that night, and his room was searched without proper authorization. Therefore, he should not be expelled from your housing. I'm a lawyer. I know the law. Manager: We'll discuss that in a moment, sir, but I would like to hear from the intruder, who I'm sure can speak for himself and give us his explanation. The intruder looked at his dad, who gave him a small nod, almost like granting permission to speak. The intruder: Well, like Father said, it was a mistake. I didn't realize I had walked into the wrong flat. I only noticed when I saw the girl sleeping that I was in the wrong room. And Father says that the substances you found in my room weren't seized legally, so technically, you shouldn't be allowed to expel me. The manager pulled out a copy of the intruder's housing contract. They keep a copy of every signed contract for legal reasons. He flipped to the section titled Illegal Substances and Contraband, which clearly states that any possession of illegal materials, drugs, weapons, and so on housing grounds would result in immediate expulsion. He then turned to another section titled Room Entry and Inspections, which stated that security and management are allowed to enter any room for repairs or safety inspections with 24-hour notice, but that searches related to suspected illegal activities, when performed by the police, require no notice. Entitled Mother: And under what suspicions did you call the police on my baby? This is ridiculous. You had no right to assume he was committing an assault and use that as grounds to search him. Everyone in the room looked stunned. No one had even mentioned assault up to that point. Talk about jumping to conclusions. Manager: Ma'am, assault is not mentioned anywhere in your son's expulsion notice. He then turned to me. Are we correct that the intruder didn't attempt to harm you? Me: No, he didn't try anything. We didn't even make physical contact. Clem: I made the assumption at first because I saw her crying with a strange man in her room. It was late, I was barely awake, and that's what I initially thought. Entitled Dad: So, you wrongfully accused my son of assault. Do you know we could sue you for that, young man? I work for, insert the name of some apparently prestigious law firm. Manager: Everyone calm down. No one is suing anyone, especially since no official accusation was made. It was something said in the heat of the moment. Besides, your son is being expelled because prohibited substances were found in his room on Tuesday. His room was searched because he admitted to the security guard that he was under the influence. Now, if you can't provide substantial evidence that your son hasn't violated his contract, we'll end this meeting. Does anyone have anything to add? Entitled Mother: Well, I have something to say. I think this young woman should apologize to my son for getting him expelled. If she had reacted differently to his presence and dressed with more decency, none of this would have happened. Also, imagine how embarrassing it must have been for my son to realize he entered the wrong flat. What was he supposed to do? Clem: Oh, I don't know. Leave the flat. Me: Also, Mrs. Entitled Mother, I don't see how my sleeping attire would have changed anything. I had my covers up to my chin, and I'm not going to change my sleeping habits in case someone decides to break into my room at 3 in the morning. The intruder: Yeah, I didn't see anything at the time. I only realized she wasn't wearing a shirt when I was taken out of the room because the lights were turned on. Mom, please stop with that. Entitled Dad: Son, don't speak to your mother that way. We're doing everything we can to keep you here, so show some respect. The meeting ended shortly after that. We left, and the intruder was expelled.